Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Lift Shit Get Banged podcast. I am speaking to you today from a very sweaty office. I am currently recording in a heat wave in the UK. If you're listening from overseas, we are currently experiencing gorgeous heat in England, which is great for June because it's actually something that we normally don't experience. We get a lot of rain over here in the UK. So I just want to caveat that I'm not complaining. But for the purpose of recording today's episode, I have had to turn my fan off and close the windows so that it's not noisy. And the consequences of that are me sweating my little titties off in order to get this episode done. So I hope that wherever you are listening from, that you are either outside sipping on an ice cold drink, in an air-conditioned car or building, or maybe even on a beach on holiday, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, because it's summer season. And even if it is winter where you are, this time of year, a lot of people are taking annual leave, jetting off seas, taking time off. And a huge question that we have had in our group coaching check-ins this week and one-to-one check-ins is, how the hell do I navigate going on holiday but still work towards my long-term fat loss goal? Do I track? Do I train? How do I navigate desserts? How do I navigate cocktails? What do I do about my steps? Well, my friend, today we're going to answer all of those questions for you. So get locked in. The first point that I want to make here is that taking time away from training is not going to jeopardize your training progress. Now, I will use myself as an example for this. Last year, I buggered off on a trip to Florida, then Miami. Then I went to Croatia. I pretty much went on like a bender at the end of last year, and I was living my best goddamn life. And during that time, I only trained once, and it was one session that I did for fun in the hotel gym, and mainly because I can't sit still for more than 5 minutes and I get really fucking grumpy if I don't move. It was when we were in Florida, and holy tits, it was so hot that even the pool was like sitting in a bath. So I was like, you know what? I need to move. I got myself in that aircon gym and I had a really good weight session. I did a little bit of freestyling. I literally picked up a dumbbell, picked up one of the Need a Quickie workouts from the Bits app, and just got my body moving in a way that also helped me keep cool. And when we are taking time away from your regular training program, I want to reassure you that you're not going to lose all of your muscle growth, all of your strength progress during a period of 2 to 3 weeks. If you are away for longer than this, we might see a little bit of muscle atrophy. There we go. I can never say that word. Atrophy, which basically means your muscles getting smaller. And we may see a slight decrease in strength. But if you're going away for a week, 2 weeks, pushing even to 3 weeks, studies show that if you are a trained individual, so somebody who has been lifting for a little while, which most of you listening to this podcast will have been to some degree, that you will only lose around 0 to 5% of your strength over that time. And actual muscle loss will be pretty minimal. So it means that when you get back, when you return to training from holiday, you're not suddenly going to be starting from scratch. And all you'll need to do is get back into the swing of training, and in a couple of weeks' time, you'll be back right to where you started. But let's not forget, even if you're not doing a couple of fun workouts, which I do recommend, they're always interesting, testing out weird hotel gyms or gyms in cool places. I remember I went to Tulum and tested out one of the beach gyms, and that was really fun. Or in Romania last year, I had a go in some Romanian gyms, and they've got all of the techno gym equipment. That was also really fun. But say, for example, you don't have access to a gym. So I was in Morocco for 14 days a few weeks ago, and there was not a gym in sight. But what I did do whilst I was there was I surfed and I walked. And there are actually lots of yoga places in the place we were staying. So we were in a surf town called Tagazout. I didn't actually get myself to any yoga sessions because I spent most of the trip on the beach, surfboard in hand. But your body isn't going to give a flying bananas if your movement is coming from a strength session or getting wiped out by a wave. Or for most of you, it is going to be doing your steps and exploring wherever the hell you are heading off to, whether you're taking a city break or hiking in the countryside or lounging around on the beach. You can focus on different types of movement that are going to make you feel good. And emphasis on here to dip your toes into movement that is going to feel good. So we can get some endorphins flowing, we can keep your body moving, maybe maintain a little bit of muscle mass, keep the momentum of regular movement happening, but also movement that you're going to enjoy and that is going to feel fun for you. One of my clients last week said that she had so much fun just being around the pool and doing all of the weird aqua aerobics. She said that she did like an aqua pole class, which I thought was fucking jokes. Or it might even be water sports, it might be climbing, whatever tickles your fancy. The important part is that we're doing movement that is going to make you feel great. And specifically from a fat loss perspective, a really cool way that we can make sure that we're still keeping your total daily energy expenditure in a cool place, so your TDEE, is to focus on your steps. If you're going somewhere, skip taking an Uber and walk. And this is also such a cool way to explore, checking out new locations and getting a really good feel for where you are. Like, what better way to explore a new city, a new location than walking around? Or even going for a run. Something that I did in the south of France last year was I ran to locations that I wanted to go to, or I cycled. And I actually got so much further and saw some really cool places that I never would have been able to see unless I took my bike or I went running. Plus, it's so speedy. You see everything in quick time. Now, the key thing here is what you do when you get back. So often you'll get back from holiday and, you know, when you're in that weird funk of like the post-holiday blues, you're feeling out of routine, you're back home, you're going back to work, everything feels like a little bit of a slug, low mood, low energy, back to the reality of day-to-day life. And this is often where we can see that window of not training spiraling into the rest of the week. I couldn't encourage enough. The first thing to do when you get back from your trip is get a training session in. And not only is that going to lift some of the blues of being away, of no longer being on a beach sipping a spicy marg, but it means that we can intercept that momentum and get the ball rolling again. Another cheeky tip for my guys and girls that might be traveling for work and actually might not have access to a gym, but you still want to stick to your regular training program, is to swap out for the home workouts. Bring some bands with you. So the long resistance training bands are fantastic for this. Or you can even use a backpack that you've got with you or anything that's got a little bit of load. In the Bits app, we also have backpack and band workouts. And these are ones that I program for my one-to-one clients all the time, because it means that we can still stick to the same movement patterns, the same frequency of training, but you can do all of it literally from your hotel room. Now, I know that some of that isn't glamorous and it might not feel as effective as going into the gym, but what we're looking for here is low-hanging fruit so we can keep the momentum going. And from a muscle maintenance point of view, okay, we might not be making the biggest gains during that time, but even that stimulus of using the band or using your backpack will mean that we're maintaining as much muscle as possible. So I hope that now your mind is at ease in regards to exercise. And small caveat here is that the more steps that we can do, the better. So if for whatever reason, whether it is you just don't want to train that week and you're taking a complete deload week, maybe that you don't have access to any of the options that I have just suggested, focusing on your steps is the holy grail. And knowing that we can expend 300 to 500 calories per 10,000 steps, if we're going to focus on anything as a baseline, that is what I would suggest to focus on. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition. Well, we're actually going to talk a lot about nutrition because I think for most of you, this is where things can start to feel a little bit complicated. And finding that balance between I'm on track, I'm ticking all of the boxes, I'm making progress, and fuck it, I'm on holiday. I'm going to drown myself in 27 spicy margs and eat deep fried donuts for breakfast because I don't want to feel restricted. Now, I get it. And I'm going to read you a check-in from one of my group coaching clients, or a snippet from her check-in this week, which I'm sure a lot of you will be able to relate to. Now, this particular client is going away to Disney Orlando for 3 weeks. She said she's going to be absolutely smashing her steps, so she's going to be active. She's not going to be training because she won't have access to a gym during her stay, or she doesn't want to train during that time, which is absolutely fine. However, she said, I'm going to be eating in a resort, so lots of temptation. And I'll be partly driven by getting good value for money. For example, having the $6.95 waffle as opposed to the £3 granola bowl. And she said, not just the temptation of getting value for money, but also wanting to eat cool food that has a bit of novelty to it. She said, I don't want to track and control. I can get quite anxious about what I can have that's healthy versus things that I shouldn't be having. And this is where we want to break that black and white of things I should be having versus what I shouldn't be having. Now, I'm going to circle back to the first point, because if you are doing an all-inclusive, there is a big difference between that waffle looks amazing and I've really been looking forward to trying it all week and I've paid for it, so I might as well eat it. One is a conscious decision that brings enjoyment, and the other is often just eating for the sake of novelty, value for money, or just because it's there. And I think the irony is that the first option will always leave us feeling more satisfied, because we are choosing intentionally versus almost treating your body like a bit of a dustbin and being like, well, I've paid for it, so I'm going to consume everything that's in front of me, which I think sometimes can actually reduce the enjoyment and leave us feeling like we haven't made choices that actually feel good. So instead of questioning how much quote unquote value for money can I get out of the all-inclusive, I would encourage you to ask, what do I actually fancy? What is going to make me feel good? Am I genuinely hungry for this right now? So that could be, is my stomach rumbling? Have I eaten in the last 2 to 3 hours? Could I eat a full meal? And also, is this a meal for my body? So like, is it going to make me feel good? Is it going to set me up for the rest of the day? Or it could even be a little bit, is this a good meal for my soul? So am I going to leave having this meal or this dessert or this cocktail having felt good and being like, oh, that was delicious and that really tickled my fancy? And then you can make a decision from there. I also really encourage you to think about tools that you can use outside of calorie tracking. Now, if you are somebody who is traveling for work, or you genuinely find that calorie tracking helps to bring structure and more awareness into your choices, and you want to track whilst you are away, great. Use that as a tool. However, for a big percentage of you, the thought of tracking whilst on holiday will probably sound like hell on fucking earth. And you're like, the last thing that I want to do is calorie track. So this is where we can bring those tools into place. The first one being eating to comfortable fullness rather than stuffed fullness. So paying attention to, am I feeling satisfied? Am I feeling full? Rather than heading into the red zones of feeling uncomfortable, feeling lethargic after a meal and feeling a little bit sick. And a lot of this comes paired with taking time whilst you're eating your meal, pausing in between bites, spending time chewing your food, giving yourself a good 15 to 20 minutes to actually let yourself digest after that meal. So let's say you're at an all-inclusive, all-you-can-eat buffet. You have your first plate of food and you're like, oh, okay, the temptation is there to have a second or a third plate because you're like, it's there. I'm going to get my value for money. The novelty is there. And you're like, I haven't had XYZ food in ages, so I'm going to have it. Give yourself time to actually digest and assess fullness before going in for that second meal. And also know that those foods are going to be there tomorrow. They're going to be there the day after. And we don't have to have everything all at once just because it's in front of us. Like that food isn't going anywhere and you are still going to be able to enjoy it in the next few days ahead. Choosing your meals intentionally. This could be seeing something on the menu and going, you know what, I really fancy that. Like, that sounds delicious. Versus, fuck it, I'm on holiday, I'm going to have a burger, I'm going to have a fry up because normally I'm not allowed to have those foods. Such an interesting conversation I had with a client the other day. She said to me, I've realised that actually I don't even really like a full English. I just have it because it feels naughty. And this is something that I know that you guys experience. It's something that I've experienced as well. Having something because it feels like it's off plan and it feels like it's naughty and we're not going to have that opportunity again. Reassuring you once again that those foods aren't going anywhere and you can have that food whenever the fuck you like. And asking yourself the question, am I actually enjoying this or am I having it because of the novelty of it being there? It might also mean having some meals where you are being a little more quote unquote sensible because you want to actually fuel yourself for the day. So say, for example, you're going out on a big trip, you're going out on a coach trip, you're going to be out for a long time. A really cool idea would be actually having a breakfast that's got loads of protein. So having something like a yogurt, maybe something like bacon medallions, maybe eggs on toast, pairing it with some fruits and veg, having a nice coffee, because you know that that is going to set you up for the next 3 to 4 hours and keep you feeling full all the way until lunch. You've got lots of energy, you feel present, you're feeling good, versus having a super high sugar like waffles with maple syrup that likely in an hour or so you're going to be feeling hungry again. So choosing meals that actually are going to set you up for the day, and thinking more so about how a certain food is going to make you feel versus whether it is a good or a bad food. And this brings so much power into the decisions that we're making, because instead of thinking I can have this versus I can't have this, you're checking in whether, okay, is this meal going to actually support me in feeling great for the day or not? And you can apply this to drinking as well. So, for example, if you're tempted to have a cocktail at 10 a.m. in the morning, as you know, you do on holiday, asking yourself, am I going to feel like a dehydrated little hungover prune by 3 p.m.? Can I leave it until at least 12 until I have a coffee tea? Or on the other hand, you might just want to get wine drunk in the day, and that's absolutely fine. But either way, we're having the choice because you've decided to do so, not because of the sake of it being there or for the novelty of it being there. Can you see the consistent theme that we've got going on here? Now, equally, if there are foods, a meal, a snack, a dessert, a drink that you've been really excited to try, it looks delicious, it is a big fuck yeah. Don't forget that whilst you are away, your usual split might look a little bit different. So at home, we recommend aiming for around an 80-20 or a 90-20 balance. So that means that we're getting a good 80 or 90% of your food from nutrient dense sources, foods that are going to make you feel good. And then that 20 or 10% are going to be foods for the soul, so foods purely for enjoyment. But whilst you're on holiday, it might actually look a little bit more 60-40. We're probably going to be having more foods for enjoyment, or it might even be a cheeky 50-50. And that's absolutely fine. But the important thing here is that your choices are intentional. This leads in really nicely to choosing your absolute fuck yes moment. So saving your indulgences for the times that are important to you. So, for example, if you are having your first spicy marg on the beach, absolute fuck yes moment. Versus at breakfast, for example, grabbing every pastry inside just because you are in holiday mode, even if you don't necessarily even fancy it. Or in the afternoon when someone's like, do you want an ice cream? And you're like, yeah, go on then. And actually you're like, oh, I didn't even really want that, but I'll have it anyway because someone's paid for it. They're the moments where we can say, actually, that wasn't a fuck yes moment, so I can say no. So to round this short and sweet episode off, instead of asking yourself, what's the healthiest thing that I can have on the menu, or how the hell am I going to make this meal fit my calories? Try asking yourself, okay, what food do I actually fancy? What is going to make me feel good? Am I feeling physically hungry? Is this a hell yes moment? And if it isn't a hell yes moment, is it a no? Is this meal a meal for my body or just food for the goddamn soul? And those questions encourage a little bit of awareness and encourage us to actually make decisions that help us to feel good. Now, for most of you guys in a calorie deficit, if you have told us that you are going away, we will suggest going up to maintenance calories. If you are not working with us, I would suggest going up to maintenance calories, which basically means the calorie target where you will neither be losing body fat or gaining body fat. Now, this doesn't need to be perfect. Your maintenance calories are always a range of calories anyway, so it could be between 1,900 calories and 2,200 calories, as an example. But use that as a guideline. For example, that's not going to give you much information or much good use to you if you're not calorie tracking. But if you are calorie tracking, it could be something to consider. And mindfully, when you're actually choosing meals, it gives you better guidelines and know that you can have bigger portions than usual, especially if you have been balls deep in a Cali D. Here is your reminder that food as a whole is not just numbers. Food isn't just calories. Food isn't just fuel. It is the experience. It's trying new foods. It's having a cocktail with the girls. It is having a gorgeous dessert at the end of the night and enjoying every bite. It is making memories. It's experiencing culture. It's creating connection with your friends. It's fun and you can have so much enjoyment. And I don't want you spending your trip thinking about whether your chicken sandwich was 450 or 650 calories, because we're missing the goddamn point. But it also doesn't mean throwing all common sense out the window and treating every meal like a competitive eating challenge. You know that guy, man versus food? That's not what we're striving for. We can still make good decisions. We can still take imperfect action. And we can still support our health and our goals without needing to be obsessive over it. And even something as simple as having a bit of protein in each meal, maybe swapping out chips for veg if you're not even fancying chips, and being like, oh, I actually will have like a big juicy salad because that's going to be a healthy option. And actually, on second thought, I really fancy that. Maybe it looks like when you are having a Coca-Cola, having a full fat Coke, hold on, I've said that back to front, having a Diet Coke instead of a full fat Coke. There's not a huge difference. That's not going to massively take away from your experience, but you're going to be saving some calories there. But maybe it also means ordering that steak and chips that you've been really fucking excited to have and enjoying every bite, but not falling balls deep into the bread that they bring out on the table at the start of your meal that you didn't actually really want and has left you feeling like a bloated potato. A little top tip for you guys as well, the same with training. Often when you get back from holiday, you get back and the cupboards are bare and you're like, oh God, I haven't even done a food shop. And then all of a sudden you're back at work. You've got 2 weeks worth of washing to do. The kids are driving you fucking mental and everything goes to shit. So a really cool place to start when you get back is just get a food shop in. It doesn't need to be perfect, but without that, you're not going to have anything else. So spend 5-10 minutes, even if it's on the plane on the way home or on your last day on your sun lounger. Get a quick meal plan together, so sketch out your week. Get a food shop done, either when you are on your way back from the airport or the modern day, we can even do a food shop online and make sure it's delivered by the time that you get back. The luxury of the modern world. So I think there's no excuses there. And we end up sometimes like, oh, we've just got back from holiday. No, fuck it. There's nothing in the cupboards. Let's get a takeaway. But this is what we want to avoid, because then we end up in that spiral of letting that trickle into the rest of your week, and that's when we can end up feeling a little bit crappy, as opposed to coming back and being like, you know what, I'm going to get back to my Cali D, or at least I'm going to be eating food that's going to make me feel good and set me up for the week. Now, in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be buggering off to Croatia and the south of France, and I will absolutely be applying some of these techniques myself. More so for me with a bottle of rosé and lots of gorgeous French cheese, and know that I will be thoroughly enjoying that. And I hope that you guys do too. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode of the Lift Shit Get Banged podcast. I will see you next time.